Hey, how's it going, everyone? So today we're going to be taking a look at my portfolio that I'm building up to $100,000 on M1 Finance. So we're actually going to hop over onto the computer so we can start following along in real time with everything that we are seeing on my portfolio. Now, it's been a little while since I've done updates. I've actually been really bad at doing updates, but I still want to do them so that way we can see the progress going on over time and just kind of see where the portfolio is now. There's actually been quite a few changes on this portfolio, and I'm going to kind of talk about those, and we're going to see some of the things that have been going on. Now, you can see over here, we're currently in my all-time. Our actual overall value on this portfolio is sitting at $83,039, which is the highest it's ever been on camera. Obviously, it fluctuates up and down just based off of the market and how it's doing. You can see our total gains, with including dividends and anything I've sold for profit or even loss, is culminated to a total of $7,209, which is really nice. You can see that's a return of 33.97%. Now, I know some people prefer to see unrealized gains, and that's great. So if we go into my holdings, we can see our current unrealized gains is $4,363, which is about 5.5%. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, especially since we've been in this portfolio since, January 23rd of 2019. But obviously, with the markets having gone up and down, and definitely down for several months, just all through 2022, this is actually a really good spot to be in, I believe, as of right now. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've been reinvesting constantly every single week, even when the market has been dropping. So I've been trying to catch that falling knife that a lot of people talk about. And I think it actually benefited me greatly because I didn't stop or even try to sell anything. I just kind of kept buying into the stocks I've had. I've actually even sold some of the stocks that I hold in my portfolio. Some of them I actually just sold off a portion of them, not the entire holding, just so I can take some of those profits and actually invest them into other companies that I have. So this is with M1 Finance. This is the platform I love to use when it comes to investing for the long term. If you guys want to check them out, I'll always have a link in the show notes down below. They do support out the channel, but you usually get a nice little bonus for going through with that link. Now, what we want to talk about here is kind of going and looking at some of the differences over the last couple of weeks and months. So you can see the day was not too bad from closing that we had. It was about $1,500 in gains. In the last week, we were actually up almost $2,800, and in the last month, we're actually up $11,500. Now, you saw in the all-time we're actually only about 7,000 and some change. And again, that's because we've had such a really tough first half of the year. But again, this is why it's so important to be investing even when it's a down market. And if anything, it's the best time to be investing. You can see our quarter, we're actually up $9,700. And then in our year, we're still about $2,200 shy of being back in the positive. So you can just see that that whole downturn or flat line for us from pretty much the end of, the end of November, somewhere in December, all the way until pretty much July. That's a long time to be investing and seeing your money just constantly going down. And I did videos here on the channel, so I wasn't not recording because of how the portfolio was doing. Actually, I do love showing when the portfolio is red or when we're not doing well, just because I do want to showcase that that's going to be the case for a lot of people, especially if you're investing for a long time, where it's not always going to be green, it's not always going to be positive, and that's okay, especially if you are still investing during that time. And so you can see right here, even though it's kind of like flatline, that's just me constantly investing. I'm putting more than I normally would every single week. I'm investing in the companies that are doing kind of the worst in my portfolio, as long as I still believe in them, because that's obviously a big thing too. So one of the things we talked about was some of the changes that I've had. So we're going to kind of go in here. You can see August 4th was one of them. I actually did a full sell on one of my stocks. This one I actually completely sold out of, which was Next Era Energy. So I completely got rid of that, and then I took all of the proceeds from there, which was actually in the positive for me. So I actually sold it at a gain, and then I just pretty much broke that down into 14 of the stocks I have. You can see these I kind of just did manually purchases for them. So I put a lot into Lockheed Martin, as well as Texas Instrument, because those two were in the same sector as Next Era Energy. So I didn't want that sector to be lost with so much of the funds from there. But then you can see we did a ton in finance because there was a lot on the downturn for that. So Ally Financial or Discover got quite a bit there. We got a decent amount into Block now. They used to be called Square, but a little bit in everything that we have in the portfolio. And that really helped us out too, because we took something that was kind of gone up in the green for a while and then became steady, and then I sold that, and then buying into these stocks that were maybe not doing as well at the time, but then ended up going up really, really nicely. Now, before we continue on, if you are also somebody that's building up an investing portfolio for yourself and your family in the future, I want you to actually check out term life insurance, because if something ever happens to you during that process of trying to build up for your future, I want you to make sure that your family's protected. And you can do that with life insurance, and term life insurance in particular with Ladder Life. Now, Ladder, the cool thing about them is it just takes a couple of minutes to check out what rates that you can have when it comes to monthly payments, and then you could be protecting your family for the future. And that's really cool. You can actually do it directly on your phone, which you can check out in the link down below. So make sure you check that out. Check out term life insurance and protect you and your family. I actually took also some money out of Visa. So I didn't fully sell out of Visa. I just took about $870. So they were kind of actually neutral. I wasn't really in the negative with them like some of the other companies I have, as well as not really in the positive. Visa for me has kind of been pretty flatline for the last couple of years. Not saying I want to sell out because of that, but I just wanted to take that money and put it into other opportunities. So these were a lot of the companies. And again, this was July 26th. I don't know if it's still on screen. Yeah. Okay, so July 26th, you can see here, I mean, I was buying some of these stocks at a much nicer price point than they are today, which means I'm actually getting them at a great price, and then that growth has really helped us. So taking that money from Visa and putting it into something like Amazon at a share price of 114, and I think now, let's actually see where Amazon is really quick. They're at 143. It's cut off screen here. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so they're at 143. So that was a good time to take some of that profit, or even nothing from Visa, and then move it over to something like Amazon. Now, obviously, I only put $65 in there, so it wasn't as much as some of the other companies in there. And obviously, hindsight, you would have wanted just to put all of it in there, and I could have, but I definitely did go through that process, because even here, when I sold all of Next Era Energy, I did buy some Amazon as well for $150. So that one I got it at a share price of 141. So not as much, obviously, because it's 143 right now, but still a good value long term as far as moving it into there. And then I sold another company, which was Lockheed Martin. I sold a portion of them. So yeah, I sold a portion of them, and then I ended up buying back into them as well too. So I'm trying to see if I can find it. So this was Lockheed Martin. I sold about $590 worth of Lockheed Martin, which was actually all of the profit that it has been happening with Lockheed, which is kind of interesting, because if I go back here, I'm going to actually show you. So I want to show you here. So in the last, let's go to last year. So you can see this right over here. So many months ago, actually about a year ago, I was buying into Lockheed Martin around this price point pretty heavily in my portfolio, because it was one of the worst performing stocks in my portfolio. And I was like, you know what? This is the company I want to be throwing most of my money into, because it's getting me the most value versus where like my average price was. So I kept buying a ton into here. And then the funny thing is, after everything else was going down, you can see here, it was about like end of February, beginning of March, the stock just went up, and it just stayed up really, really strongly. So what I decided to do was actually sell some of Lockheed Martin, take those proceeds and put it into the companies that are currently down at that time. And you'll see here in just a second. So if we go back here, I put more into Amazon, and look at that. I bought it at $103. Again, if I knew more and how fast it was going to go back up, maybe I would have purchased more, maybe sold all of Lockheed Martin temporarily and then gotten to Amazon entirely. But that's one of the things I saw an opportunity for, was saying, hey, something in my portfolio is creeping up on its 52-week high while everything else is pretty much at its 52-week low. So let's sell the one that's really high up, and then let's, buy in the one that's really, really low. And I like doing that just because I know long-term that's the intent of trying to get the most value out of my portfolio, and knowing that I'm not going to sell out of Lockheed Martin entirely, but I just think that was a good time to be able to do that. Now, if you look at Lockheed Martin, it definitely took a little bit of a dip again, and now it's gone back up. So if I wanted to buy over here, I think I did purchase a few more times since and gotten back more into that position that I had before. But I felt like that was a good opportunity, and I'm not trying to be like a day trader, not trying to like time the markets by any means. I just saw a good opportunity to say, let's take some of those proceeds and put them into these other things that we have in our portfolio, because in order for us to get to $100,000, which we're getting very close, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to be following along, just so you can see, once we hit 100,000, then maybe how long it takes us to hit 200,000. Because on this portfolio, you can see here, like I said, we started in 2019, so it's going to be taking us quite a while to get to 100,000. My hope is before the 3-year marker? 4-year marker of having this portfolio, that would be a really cool thing to hit that 100,000. And then the hope would be maybe it takes half that time to get to 200, and half that time to get to 400, and just kind of keep building up on the portfolio. Obviously, one day get to hopefully like 1 million. That would be really cool. And you guys could be following along with that and seeing how that plays out long term as well. Now you can see here, we have earned well over $1,200 in dividends, which I've taken back and reinvested into the portfolio. So every time we get dividends, it just goes right back into the account. I actually like to drop in a little bit of extra money during that time, even if I don't want to be buying a lot in the market because maybe the market's gone hot, just kind of like it has been so far. So if we look over the last week, I've only put in about $250, and that's actually technically within the last 2 weeks. It's just timing that I deposited everything in. You can see in the last month, I only put in about $1,800. And this is the time when the market has been red hot over the last, couple of weeks. Obviously, you can see that 11,500 gain. I said that weird. $11,500 gain. But then if we go to the quarter, you can see in the last quarter, I put in over 8,800. So as things started heating up in the market, I started slowing down on my buying because things were getting pretty high as far as costs go when it comes to buying at a relatively good price point. A lot of my stocks obviously are back in the green, so I'm not buying to lower my dollar cost average. Not saying I don't want to be buying into the stocks, because obviously if my dollar cost average is at a certain price point and that's where the stock is, I'll keep buying. I think Home Depot was one of those where it stayed relatively close to my average price. So it's at 306 for my average price, and then the current price point is 314. So you can see I'm actually putting in about $25, which is not as much as I was in the past, just putting into the stock just because it's relatively close to that price point. So I'm still buying in, but I'm not buying in heavily like I was when this was under $300. That's when I was really buying into it. Same thing with companies like Amazon and Google. I was really buying in pretty heavily, even to the point where I got Google down to an average share price of $114, which is really exciting. We got over 62 shares after their 20-to-1 split. So that was really nice to be buying into a company and then having that split, even though it doesn't actually change anything for the company. It's just nice to see those numbers starting to go up over time when it comes to the amount of shares that we have with the company. So I'm putting a little bit more money into that company, but what I'm not doing is putting a lot of money into the companies that are kind of hitting that peak of like that 52-week high. Like I told you with Lockheed Martin, I slowed down on purchasing because I wanted to go ahead and buy the companies that were a little lower. So what I like to do a lot of times is go into my holdings, and then I can toggle over with my unrealized gains and see the companies that are currently in the red or barely in the green. So we have companies like Block, Airbnb, Meta, and Ross have all been pretty deep in the red. Ross has actually been coming back pretty strongly here. You can see I'm about 10% down on my investment, but at one point it was, I think, down over 30%, and I was buying really heavily into the stock to the point where I actually lowered my average price to about $100. I think before that it was like 115 or so, give or take. You can see we have about 71 shares of the company, which is really great. I believe in the company. I love where they're going long term, based off of their numbers, based off of their plans for the future, and everything else that they have as well. And then you can see like Meta, we're down about 16%. I was actually down pretty heavily on that. And then Block, I was down very heavily. I think I was down maybe almost 60%. And then I was buying in a little bit here and there to help lower my dollar cost average. And you can see we're up at 32 shares on this company with an average price of $129, which is not bad at all. And then we got companies like Allied that had a huge drop, so I ended up buying back into them. Amazon, I'm only up about 3%, so still buying into them right now is getting me a really good price point. Versus if we go into companies like Tesla, obviously, they are way higher in price point now. I think they're in the 900s. So buying them with my average price point of 561 is really going to start ticking that up quite a bit. So I'm not investing as much into this company. Same thing with Apple. They are definitely doing a lot better right now. So just kind of holding off on investing more and more into those companies. Same thing with Costco. Like I'm putting money in, but not at that same level as some of these other companies. Because if I go into my activities, see if I can kind of scroll down. So you can see like I've been putting about 100, 150 a week right now. But when I was putting in a lot more over the last couple of weeks, like 350 here, 500 there, 200 there. So when that market was down, I was definitely buying, and I was buying pretty heavily. And I actually just love putting money in and, getting the most value out of all of my investments. So you could see like, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Square, Airbnb and even Google, plugging these numbers in. Well, that was before the split, but just buying in nonstop as everything was going through, I think was really important for me to, stay steady, stay invested. And I think that's what gave me this opportunity in this last quarter to be up so much in comparison to where I would have been if I maybe held off on investing because the market kept going down. And I wasn't trying to wait for a bottom. I wasn't trying to time any market. I was just investing more, and I saw opportunities, so I deposited more money at that given time. I think at this point right now, I'm a little bit more, like I said, holding back a little bit, maybe still doing investments every single week, just so that way we're invested. But I think long term, if the market continues to go up, I'll start maybe increasing the amount that I'm depositing. If the market continues, then that's fine. But if we take some more big dips like we had in the first part of 2022, I could definitely see myself wanting to deposit more and more money and get more value out of the companies that I have already invested in, and then getting to be able to lower down my dollar cost average on those as well. Because like I said, when I'm buying into something where my average price is $100.53 and then the current price is $90.12, I'm getting more value now than I was originally when I started buying the company and believing in the company. Now, if their fundamentals change, if things are looking down, quarter after quarter, and I'm not seeing different things changing during that time period, I can reassess and maybe want to sell out of them. But, a lot of these companies are ones that I want to hold for a long time and then, either take profits or just live off the dividends down the road, because that's part of the point with this account down the road, is to be able to live off of those dividends. And like I said, if you want to follow along, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can check it out. We're very close to hitting 100,000, maybe in the next couple months, maybe in less than a year would be the big goal. I think that'd be cool, unless there's like huge drops in the market. But if you want to keep on watching and learning and kind of like following along with this journey, you guys can check out the next video right over here on screen to keep on watching. My name is Dennis, and I'll see you in that next video.